Hello, my name is Adefemi Davis and this is Ethos. Today I have a very special guest. I'll call him special before because I think I liked him the very first time I met him. I met him through my brother, and I've been privileged to, come across a few of his write-ups on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and he has a likable personality. He's a medical doctor, he's an author, and you know what? Let me just keep this brief. Ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome Dr. Tobiloba Ojo to Ethos. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, sir. I really appreciate it.
We are talking about mental health. I remember I did an episode on it, but I'm not a professional in this field. I only talked off the top of my head. And so I thought it would be nice. It's something that I'm quite passionate about, how people can, particularly in a climate like Nigeria.
Okay.
And that's why I want you to, give a very robust approach to the whole mental health discussion. And I think we should start with the definition. What is mental health?
Thank you so much. That's a question that professionals do get. And you can't know much about health, mental health to be specific, without knowing what health in itself entails. Health is a complete set of physical, mental, social. Some people add spiritual well-being. So if one is okay physically but not okay mentally, person is not healthy. If you are physically, mentally okay, but your social networks, there are problems for you. You're not socially okay. Then in the dynamics of the cosmos, if we are not spiritually okay, that can also tilt us to some kind of unhealthy choices. So health in itself, that's the definition. But for mental health is when an individual can actually realize his or her own strength. You know your strong points. You can cope with daily stress of life. You can contribute to the society positively. And that's what mental health actually entails. So if you don't really know your strengths, then you might fall down the ladder in terms of how stressed you will be. And with stress and all those coming into place, the problem of how productive you are to the society, how effective you are in your relational skills, or how life evolves around you, will start to become a problem. So that's mental.
Okay, so the concept mental health is not negative in how do I put it, in the professional sense, because most times when the words come into lingua franca, into everyday conversations, a lot of people have this perception that, when you're talking mental health, you're talking depression. When you're talking mental health, you're talking about suicide and all. The concept mental health is not negative.
It's not negative. Mental health is different from mental disorders.
Okay.
So many people say, once you hear mental health, they say, I'm protecting my mental health. Many people's perspective flips over to the disorders. That's the issue we are having with how to debunk that myth. Mental health is, I am mentally healthy. I can contribute to my society. I'm not stressed by just random daily things. I know my strengths. I can function well in my society and I can contribute productively. That's someone that is mentally healthy. But someone that is not mentally healthy is someone with a mental health disorder.
Okay.
All right. That's where all those schizophrenia, depression, anxiety disorders, mood disorders, hyperactivity disorders, and the likes. Because mental health is a spectrum.
Okay.
So usually it's like, let me say, it's like a hill and a valley. Sometimes you are high, sometimes you are down. But on a scale of like 1 to 10, you are okay in the middle. You are
Okay.
not overly excited, you are not overly depressed, and yet you still keep contributing positively as daily challenges come in place.
So now, would you say there is a relationship between mental health and physical health?
Yes, there is, and the way the body of psychiatry explains that, I can remember very well in school and through trainings that we were taught the biopsychosocial model of health. So, bio means physical, the physical aspect of someone's body. For example, if someone gets like physically challenged, it can have an effect on the mental health. The person might be depressed and all that. Also, if someone has some personality issues, something about the psyche of the person, the self-care of that person can start getting affected. You see it physically. Then if the social network of someone is not so optimal, for example, someone from a dysfunctional home or someone that never knew his dad, his mom, the mental health aspects too will start to take its toll. You can see all the teenage delinquency, you can see all the rascality, the so-called area boys in quotes. They didn't enjoy a lot of love when they started out in life, and that's why they can be easily provoked for some of them, and it's not all of them that end up developing all these kind of things. So mental health also should be in perspective that what you experience and may make you a bit worried. I may experience it and feel that it's part of life. And what I may experience and I'm overly anxious, you might say that's just a piece of cake in the grand scheme of things. So that's the relationship between physical, mental, and the social context one can find in oneself.
Yeah, now let's talk about how you ventured into all this. What ignited your passion for mental health?
Okay, I can remember very well while I was in UI. It was 200 level actually. The toll of med school. You are now in med school. It started to take a toll on me psychologically. I started to withdraw a bit, and it was getting to me psychologically when I didn't do so well as I used to do back in secondary school. You know, the typical you're a high flying student, blah blah blah. But now everybody is on level playing field. So I started to say that how can I get more relaxed with all the old tense environment? For me, it started out with my roommate. My roommate was very conversational. He strikes conversations with people so well. So with time, he was reading books and all that, and I was all about reading academic books. You read books about art of seduction and so on and so forth, about how to develop soft skills with human relationship and all that. But for me, I was just observing, and I started to take interest in medical students writing, medical students presenting poems, and I now saw that was my physician heal thyself moment.
Okay.
So what I did was that I started to listen to more of music. So anytime I did bad in school, there's always the Brimo to play, there's always and all that. And of course I started to interact much better. So the mental health aspects started to get more stabilized for me. Okay. I could now strike conversations with adults. I could now get support system anytime I feel stuck, senior colleagues and all that. So that's when the concept of mental health started becoming something I was fascinated by. I loved the idea.
I'm glad you mentioned support system, and this is going to prompt my next question. Do you think in Africa people are discussing mental health enough? I know a lot of people talk about, say for example, in marriages, couples are lectured on family planning. When we were growing up, we had wole. They would come to your neighborhoods to sensitize you about the need for cleanliness. All right, there was sensitization about malaria, etc. Now, mental health, now that you've mentioned it, it's a crucial part of health. All right, we talked about physical, social, and am I right?
Yes.
There's physical, social,
Mental.
mental, and you mentioned spiritual. Now, do you think mental health as a concept is getting enough attention? Because you mentioned support system. That means some people identified, or you identified people who could help you, put you in quotes, good moods, all right, when you were in bad moods. Do you think the concept is wholly discussed in Africa?
Largely in Africa, there's a lot of stigmatization, and that's a conversation that is still ongoing. For example, in a family, let's say there's a family of 4, for example, and one of them develops maybe depression and sadly committed suicide. In the African culture, everyone goes mute, buries the person, and moves on, forgetting that there's a background at play. There's something that evolved before that situation came into play. So many times we don't know that even in the conversations we have, they have a way of shaping our minds. They have a way of like, you can feel bad and you just go speak to someone and all your body gets lightened. That's the beauty of conversations. That's just conversation. You can feel bad and listen to classics only and feel good. You can feel bad and just take a walk in a park. Oh, you're greeting this person. Oh, how are you doing? You strike conversations, and
movies work for me.
Movies too.
Whenever I'm depressed and I don't want to lash at anyone, I just go to movies. I turn on Netflix. I could watch 3 movies in a row until the mood lightens up. So I think I can relate to what you're saying. Please go on.
So for us as Africans, I would like us to see mental health as a spectrum, something normal.
Something normal.
Something normal. Mental health is not mental disorder. Mental health is all the things I've mentioned earlier, and also how your interpersonal skills too, your excellence in how you display your emotions, the way you express yourself, shows how mentally healthy you are. And there's beauty in art, and I say art is one of the things that kind of marries mental health with whatever profession one may be doing. Just staring at pictures, staring at nature, photography is healthy.
That's a good one. Now, I really wish we could exhaustively discuss this, because I know that parents often, like you mentioned, you give birth to 4 kids. Let's even say pre-suicide. Let's even be milder now. You notice that your child is different. Your child is a bit asocial. Your child likes to be in the room at all times. All right, your child doesn't play with the other kids. Your child snaps, etc. Often, rather than read articles that could help them understand the child, they further aggravate the situation by using unpleasant words. All right, they label the child. God bless you, and eventually the child withdraws further and further, and at some point it gets even too hard to control. I've been privileged to, I don't do, of course I can't offer professional advice, but I've had conversations with people that, I mean, they come to me probably because I'm open-minded, I'm objective, and they share secrets that they can't tell their parents. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I wish your parents knew this so they would help you go through this. I've had the secrets in my brain right now. They're huge. And that's just because these kids, many of them have been people between 16 and 30, and they're dealing with this thing. They don't have, of course, like I said, I can't give them professional advice. I just I use layman's terms to tell them, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be good. I've had all sorts of conversations. And I wish that this society would embrace, all right, this concept that it can happen to anyone. Let's just see that anyone
so, at any time.
Do you think, I mean, you're the one in the field, do you think there are workshops presently that people can join, maybe online, maybe offline, that can help parents, anyone, even to understand one's friend? Oh, my friend is different. Do you think there are symposia or workshops that people can connect to or connect with that would make them better understand and then reduce the stigmatization of mental health?
There's ongoing campaign by so many non-governmental organizations that are rising to this major public health concern now, because mental health is actually getting to be a public health concern now, because there are statistics that show that 1 million people all over the world die from suicide, and suicide is preventable in a year. That's about 1 every 40 seconds. That's huge.
It's huge.
And we are not having all these conversations of like, how can we get better? All we are doing is we are pushing it to the back. We are pushing it to the, and many people feel that once you start talking about mental health, that, for example, once you start talking to someone, the person feels down, and you keep telling the person that, okay, you feel heard, you're having that conversation, you keep going deeper, that person would commit the act. That's a big fallacy. Because I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a medical doctor with so many trainings and certifications in mental first aid. And I belong to a mental health foundation too that helps to push this narrative that we should be unashamed about speaking about our mental health. Once a child is withdrawing, feels my parents can't understand me, that's an issue. Because a child should feel safest
with
the parents. And we must learn to understand that there are some concepts that we may feel that they are so out of the world, but once we take our time to pay attention to them, for example, mental health is, everyone goes through financial crisis. Everyone.
That's actually a huge trigger, I think, globally. That's one of the triggers of, no, I wouldn't say triggers of mental health. That's one of the things that I can't, because I'm not the professional, I don't know the words to use right now. It's one of the reasons why people go from the good mood into the very bad mood.
Yeah, finances play a key role. It plays a key role in our lives because it's the means of exchange of value. I can offer this skill to you, you pay me for this skill and get my services. Life is transactional.
Yeah, life is transactional.
No matter how we try to say we are humanitarians or anything, at the end of the day, there's a value and there's someone paying for the value. So what we must start to understand in the grand scheme of things is that when it comes to understanding mental health, let's take a relaxed approach. Let's look at it that when in the Bible, for example, when Proverbs was written, most of it by Solomon, what was the mood it was saying? It was speaking more from a place of wisdom, from a place of I've observed this, I've observed this, I've observed it. But when he moved to Ecclesiastes, it was more of Like, is there vanity? Is there? So you must understand that there's something going on the writer's mind as well. They were inspired by God. We believe that and we know that. But also the mood of the writer would be displayed in the works. And that's why I tell people, try to journal, because you can track some dysfunctional thoughts.
So what you're saying now is that writing can be therapeutic.
Writing is healing. I'll not even, writing is healing because the mind in itself is creative. The mind is a powerful tool. It's actually one of the most sophisticated machines. We are conscious of our environment. We are the higher animal, quote unquote, because we have a mind to be able to think, to be able to act, and to be able to reflect on what the consequences have been in life. So we should not say that, oh, I don't like reading, I don't like writing, because writing, you can pour out your mind to your journal. Nobody has to see it. You can actually write yourself to healing.
Now, are there ways that we can identify triggers, emotional triggers? I remember this story. I hope maybe I'll include the title of the book in the video. There was this guy, the child fell sick in the US, and took the kid to the hospital, and in just a few days had accumulated a bill of $250,000.
Wow.
And just went to the Golden Gate Bridge. I was about to jump. And then there was this police officer who was assigned to the Golden Gate Bridge, who it was an hour-long conversation.
Right.
And he was able to convince the man not to jump. And then maybe 10 years after, I saw the before and the after, and then the man came to say a big thank you.
Thank you.
And then the police officer had now written a book and said that in his entire time at the Golden Gate Bridge, he had been able to save 150 people from jumping.
Wow.
Now, how do I identify that, oh, I think I'm falling into depression? What can I do to snap out of it? Is it possible for me to train my mind to know when I'm switching from a good mood into a bad? It's okay to not be overly excited. That's understandable.
Okay.
But when you're like, I'm bad. For me now, when I'm in a bad mood, I know. I just withdraw. I go to a room and I start watching movies. All right. I've been able to note that. How can we train people to understand, okay, this trigger, we know finance could be a trigger, poor finance could be a trigger. What are the likely trigger? Divorce could be a trigger, right?
Yes, exactly.
So can you mention a few, and then is there a way they can note it and then fight it?
Okay, so this is what I usually recommend for people, is that we should track our thoughts. For example,
okay.
If you are thinking a particular thought, you should learn to question that thought. Why am I thinking like this? For example, if someone is in a mood of gloom and everything, there's always an event that triggered it.
Yeah.
Yes. So what we should, the onus lies on us that, okay, if it's finances, for example, which is a big role for most people, we should say that, okay, was it in the expenditure or in the income? For example, if income is more than expenditure, of course, there will be a positive sign.
Yeah.
But if expenditure is more than income, definitely this will go down. Then there are some things that we can't control, but we can build resilience to handle.
Okay.
For example, if someone who is going through heartbreak, let me just use it for the young listeners, that if you go through heartbreak and your mind is not so developed to handle it well, it's an heartbreak. You feel it. Some people actually feel something in their chest. And what do you do? There's always that, what should I do? Many people will withdraw. That's always the flight or fight response. Some people will say, oh, challenge the lady, why, and everything. But some people will withdraw, depending on their personalities. And so once you now say, okay, I withdrew in the last conversation, this transpired. Should I try to ask why? Should I meet someone that we are both accountable to and say, okay, can we still make this work? And there are some relationships that won't work. And like they'll say they are not compatible and you can't hide behind them, maybe religion or anything. It just doesn't work when some personalities are clashing. So we must get to the point where we are able to track our patterns, because life is in patterns. Someone can say that, oh, this person is a reserved person, because over the time, when something hits hard, when something spikes up, it tries to be reserved. And someone can say, this person is aggressive, don't even go near him. That can be his own defense mechanism. So we must be able to track all those things. And that's why it's good to work with psychologists sometimes. Once you undergo a life crisis, you should work with a psychologist to help you process your thoughts better. They are not pushing thoughts to your head. They are helping you to clarify your thoughts. And just a listening ear can be what saves people's life and help them better manage their mental health.
Now, this might be a bit controversial, pardon me, but I think it's a personal opinion. I just want to hear your view. I think the way religion has been programmed, schemed, particularly in this part of the world, in Africa, we make it seem like it is wrong for you to have mental health issues. I think we've discussed poor finances as a trigger, and I've attended services where I go to church in a bad mood. I go to church probably because I have next to nothing. Sometimes I even have nothing, but I find my way to church. And then I'm moody, probably because I'm thinking, okay, where's the next meal going to come from? And one way or another, it affects my enthusiasm in church. And then someone climbs the pulpit and insults me. I'm not saying the person isn't directing his or her conversation towards me, but says, oh, the mood is too somber, and says, oh, you should come to the presence of God with joy, with this, with that, and tongue lashes us for not being very enthusiastic. And in my mind, I'm thinking, did you know what many of us are dealing with? Forget the dresses, forget the makeup, all right? A lot of people are battling things. And I think one huge problem here is finance. The exchange rate itself can cripple a business. So if I come to a religious gathering and you notice that I'm not enthusiastic enough, can you at least just relate with it and not make it seem like I should be able to snap out of it? What's your take on it?
Okay, it's, as you said earlier, it's a very controversial topic, and I'll just give my personal take. What I think we should understand about religion is that it is exposed to schisms, different interpretations, and what I read in the scripture and understand, you might not be at that mind space to understand it at that time, and you'll be like, oh, I'm so overly moody or something, and my current space, my mind space that time, there's a lot going on in my mind. When I'm going to the church, there are some burdens I carry to the church, and the leadership of the church, the the fellowship itself of the brethren should be accommodating enough to understand that we are all at different points. We are just meeting in church. We all have different burdens. Some may be financial, some may be emotional, some may be even relational. For example, emotional is not necessarily relational. Emotions can just be the color of that how happy you are and everything. But relational is that you don't just want to see anybody. But you just believe in God, that God just solved this, and someone just tongue lashes you and everything. It puts you down the more. So we must understand that as much as we have we hold some strong beliefs, we should also find a way to be accommodating. Everybody loves to feel seen. Everybody loves to feel heard. There's nobody that, even the rich and the mighty, they just want to be heard. They just want to. It's part of the human nature that's what gives you your importance. So if you are coming to me with a lot of burden, I shouldn't throw it and bash it, because many of the conversations we are either elevating people from their dark places, or we are further depressing them. So that's just my take on it.
If you look at King David, David personifies praise. I mean, you can't mention praise according to the Bible without mentioning King David. But there was a time he was in the wilderness, and then he got anointed, and then he killed Goliath. And then there was this Saul had killed 1,000, David tens of thousands. And that was when his crisis started. And then at some point he had to run. Thank God for Jonathan. And at some point he had to disguise as a madman. And so when people talk about, Davidic praise, I'm also thinking, okay, this was the same David that said in Psalm 30, God, what gain is it for you if I go down into the pit? This was the same David that said in Psalm 25, let me not be ashamed, let not my enemies triumph over me. All right. There were Psalms where even he was pouring out his heart to God out of pain. So it's okay for people to not be joyful at all points. I understand the joy that comes when you accept Christ. Yeah, the knowledge of, okay, if I were to go now, I'm going to a better place. This trial is just for a while. Yes, but there will be times when I'll be in a lowly state, like King David. You can't compare the Solomon of Songs of Solomon to the Solomon that wrote Ecclesiastes. They're two different people. The personality changed. All right, that was when he was realized, oh, maybe life was vain. There was a time where he had 300 wives and 700 concubines when he was enjoying life. All right, so I think that's, well, we're just discussing now. I'm glad you mentioned the view that religious bodies, I'm not saying that you can solve people's problems. No, but don't insult them. Don't make them feel like the reason why they're not receiving from God is because they're always complaining. David complained. Moses complained. All right? Elijah complained. These are people that loved God. Adam complained. Adam told God, the woman you gave me. Do you understand? There will be faces like that. I've complained a few times. Then when I go back, I tell him, okay, well, I'm sorry, you are my daddy. I don't have a choice. When I feel bad, I have to talk to you. Do you understand? And I think that the church leadership generally, not just church, religious leaders should understand that, okay, when people are not in, if they're underperforming, say as workers, understand them. Feel them. Sometimes a hug, sometimes a phone call, sometimes an SMS, sometimes just listening. If someone comes to your office now for counseling, don't tell the person, how can you be this? Don't you know what the Bible says? And don't just, all right? I think a pastor should be a psychologist, psychiatrist, everything all in one.
Psychologist.
Right? That's just my own take, but I'm glad you mentioned that. Now, let's talk about your book, Reflections in the Dark. I love the cover, by the way.
Thank you.
How many books have you written?
I've written 4 books. The Reflection in the Dark was my first book. Okay. And it came from a place of...
Tell me the titles of the other one.
Okay. I've written How to Have a Stress-Free Year. Okay. I've written How to Sell Your Book, and I also wrote a children's book in the year, that's Never Give Up, to push children to be more resilient. their studies and all that. So Reflection in the Dark is actually my first, and it's been one of the companions for so many people that are going through dark times. So I was able to constructively write so many things to help people know that ups and downs are parts of life. Like you can't say there's up without saying there's a down. That's the polarity of life, by the way. So no matter what you feel at that dark phase of your life, you can just take the book for 30 days. You just gloss over short poems and reflect on what you read for 30 days, and there'll be healing at on the 30th day, which is like a 1 month of reflecting on yourself and actually overcoming that downtime.
That's good. I think this book will benefit so many people. It addresses what we've been discussing. Where can they get this?
Okay.
Online. Sorry, hard copies, soft copies. Where can we get it?
Okay, in for everyone in diaspora, they can get it at Amazon. It's available all over the world. Amazon. Good. Then in Nigeria, Roving Nights, booksellers, University of Ibadan bookshop, and Merites bookshop, and so many other bookshops. But those are like the major distributors.
That's good. So viewers, this is the cover, Reflections in the Dark by Tobiloba Ojo. Let me just read part of let me read this. In downtimes, another perspective can serve as healing. In dark times, this collection of poems is designed to serve as a source of strength. It contains 30 unique poems which aim to entertain, declutter the mind, and ultimately combat depressive states by taking the reader on a 30-day journey of healing, hope, and wholesomeness. Emotions were laid bare, toxic mindsets were deconstructed, positivity was utilized, and this was done in a way readers always see this book as a companion which can be employed at intervals. We'll do our best to give you the links. We'll put them in the video so you see where you can get them. Thank you so much, Dr. Tobiloba Ojo. Dr. Tobiloba Ojo is a medical doctor and is a mental aid rephrase that.
I'm a mental first aid professional.
Mental first aid professional. A medical doctor and a mental first aid professional. We'll also give you include his WhatsApp details in case you want to have personal conversations with him. It can help you get through those dark times. Reflections in the Dark by Tobiloba Ojo. Thank you so much for joining us on Ethos. We're very grateful. We hope some other time, very soon, we'll come discuss, give us something more robust. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Adifemi Davis, and this has been Ethos.